TopMedTalk.
Well, hello, it's Anesthesiology 2022 here in New Orleans, Louisiana, the annual meeting of the American Society of Anesthesiologists. I'm Desiree Chappell, TopMedTalk. We're in the exhibit hall here in New Orleans. I'm joined by my co-host, Professor Monty Mythen and Professor Saul Aronson. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, Desiree. What a great 3 days it's been.
I'm still reeling from the global scholar discussions, the ASA Global Scholars. That was
The bar is really high.
we're just about to exceed it.
Yeah.
We are. Well, our next guest we're really excited about. We have interviewed here at TopMedTalk the presidents outgoing and incoming over the last several years. And today is our incoming president of the ASA, Dr. Michael Champeau. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Monty was referring to, we had an opportunity to sit down and talk to the global scholars, 8 different anesthesiologists from around the world. It was inspiring.
Oh, yes. I personally been involved in several overseas educational trips over the years. And so I've seen on my repetitive visits to Vietnam the effects of the work and the teaching that we've done on those trips as the skill set of the local physicians has increased. With our work in Vietnam, in fact, those people then have taken the skills that we have imparted to them, and they're taking them out to more remote areas in their country. So the gift is sort of giving on. So It's very rewarding work teaching people from other parts of the world.
Yeah, and one of the anesthesiologists, she was so sweet, from Ethiopia, she said it really is my mission to pay it forward, and
Absolutely.
so perpetuate all of that wonderful knowledge that she's gained. So we wanted to thank the ASA for programs just like that, but for also sponsoring us here to be at your meeting. Thank you so much.
Oh, our pleasure. We're thrilled to have you here.
Great booth.
It is. The booth is
good
phenomenal.
space,
yeah. And congratulations. The meeting is going so well.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
The energy level. Again, it was great being back together for the first time last year.
Yes.
But I think we've taken it to an even higher level this year. We have obviously more attendees. Just the enthusiasm that we've seen. The people here in New Orleans have been fabulous hosts. We had our second line band entrance into the opening session, which was, I just had a big grin on my face as we were walking along in the little parade here.
Yeah,
so it's been an incredibly welcoming city, great environment, tremendous amount of energy, both in the educational sessions and I think in our governance sessions and here on the exhibit floor.
We wanted to congratulate you as you take over the reins as president of the ASA.
Oh, well, thank you.
We just caught up with Randy. He was telling us a little bit about what's happened over the prior year. Tell us a little bit about your vision for the future this year.
Well, it wouldn't be accurate to say that there's going to be a massive change in our priorities.
Keep the good things going.
Yeah, you don't turn the super tanker on a dime.
Yeah.
I think looking at it externally, our 2 goals will always remain. One is the patient safety goal, the defense of physician-led care. And then second, defending the economic viability of the practice. If anesthesia practice is not economically viable, then that's going to open the door to less safe alternatives. So those two, although they're different issues, they're coupled.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about some of the committees that are part of the ASA and how important it is as a member-led organization, how important those committees are. Tell me about some of the ones that you're most excited about working with over the coming year.
Our committee on quality management, departmental administration, which really deals with our interaction with the regulatory world, that's not an area that I've personally been as engaged in my own career coming up, either in my practice at home or in my previous ASA work. So it's an area where I've had a lot to learn, and I find that very interesting and very stimulating, and we've got terrific people. We have a new chair this year. Dr. Elizabeth Rebello from Texas is going to be chairing that, and I just find it very interesting to me personally because it's an area where I haven't learned. And it's one of the crucial committees for the organization because it helps our members interface with all the multiple regulatory agencies that impact practice so much. Of course, perennially, the Committee on Economics is a major committee for the organization. We have a lot of payment challenges going on right now. Medicare, there's the fundamental, what we call the 33% problem, but it's now down to a 27% problem, meaning we're only getting 27% a payment from Medicare that we would get from commercial insurance.
Yes.
And that's well documented. So that's an ongoing problem. But now there are each year the newer statute-based payments cuts, things related to the Medicare sequestration or the PAYGO Act, which are reducing further payments. So we're in an environment where we've got more than 8% inflation, and yet at the same time, the government wants to cut payments to physicians by another 8%. So we're looking at a 16% cut. Our Committee on Economics is one of the point players in that for the organization.
Yeah.
Mike, just to get back on the two themes of, patient-centric improvement in quality of care and securing the delivery of care to ensure that, and its linkage, if you will, to payment models and methodologies. One of the things that Randy shared with us just a moment ago, and it sounds like it's a relay, not, an individual sprint, and that you're now picking up the baton to carry on. He spoke a little bit about how we, as a profession, as a society, were able to develop relationships or rekindle good relationships to address the crisis of COVID, and that we're taking advantage of those opportunities to build on those relationships to carry us forward, to really enhance our fulfillment of our missions, patient care, and the appropriate recognition of good patient care.
Yeah.
How are you going to continue running that race?
Certainly true that during the pandemic, I think we as anesthesiologists, our profile was elevated temporarily. The contributions that we made in critical care, managing patients who were critically ill with COVID, we became far better known in the public mind, especially for things that we do outside of the operating room. I oftentimes have patients say, well, are you going to be there while I'm asleep? And of course, the thought that we wouldn't be there would be sort of unthinkable. But with the COVID pandemic, I think we had an increase in respect for what we do, and it helps our credibility in the government. Now, I'm not sure exactly whether you're referring to in terms of how that helped us. I find it to be, unfortunately, not as long-lived as I would have liked, the added respect that we've gotten.
So I guess that was the question, is how short-sighted or, is there amnesia, that is more profound than we would have expected? And how can we, regain, if you will, that traction that we had to carry on with respect to some of these payment methodology issues that confront us?
Yeah, with the government, the problem with the government is just that there is such limitation of the funds. Every time I've gone to Congress and speak with them, the conversation is always, well, we'd love to be able to compensate you better for the services you're providing. You've done all this great work, but there's just no money. So I haven't seen any real change. Now, yes, it's true we got some payments along with other physicians during the pandemic itself, but of course there was no fundamental change to the underlying payment protocols as a result of that. Those were just time limited. So I don't think that I have seen a COVID dividend, if you will, in terms of our relationship.
So Mike, where does that end? So, in the UK and the National Health Service, we can look at it all at once, if you sort of mean. We've got a massive backlog of elective surgery now. The same conversations are ongoing. There is no more money. Actually, as of a couple of weeks ago, there's even less. It's a longer story. And we've now got to the point where there's just no one to do the work. There is just no one to do the work. You can start, even if you throw money at it now, there's no one to do the work. Where does it all end?
Well, we know that right now we do have a workforce imbalance. It's possible to increase the number of nurse anesthetists more quickly because the schools can more easily increase the number of students in a year. On the anesthesia training front, though, the residency training is long. And the residency training is really prescribed by both funding from the government, which there isn't more of, the need to understand the viability of other funding, the effects of the graduate medical education community, the residency review committee, which really defines what the operations of the residency, and then the American Board of Anesthesiology, which prescribes that certain rotations be covered so that the diplomate has enough experience in a broad range. So there are many different agencies that need to coordinate to really increase the pipeline of anesthesiologists. Now, in the short term, what we are saying is, like you mentioned, people are just trying to throw money at it. And we're hearing stories of significant signing bonuses and large payments for per
Yes.
diem,
Out of control.
which is really going to disrupt the market and I think eventually come back to harm us all. I think there are other things that we can do in the short term. One is of course to run our operating rooms more efficiently. Instead of having 10 operating rooms that all start at 7:30 in the morning, but some of which end at noon or 2 in the afternoon, because that's convenient for the surgeons, we could compress those into 6 or 7 operating rooms that run all day. So one would be more efficient clinical operations. Another solution that we've talked about in the short term before we can increase the number of residents is to try to make working conditions more desirable to keep people who are nearing retirement still working. There are some anesthesia practices which sort of insist that everyone share an equal burden of call and of more difficult, less desirable cases, perhaps allowing there to be a differential in work assignments to make it so it's desirable.
Retention.
Retaining
There's a lot
more
of
senior
retention.
physicians.
Yeah, we actually talked to Amy Vinson with the Wellness Committee and Wellbeing Committee, and great insight and leadership in that space to really start looking at these things that we need to do as a profession to improve the well-being of our providers in all their different spaces so that we can retain and keep people still engaged. So lots of good work. Well, if more people are your members and other people want to learn more about this, I'm sure they can go to asahq.org to get more information. Can
Oh,
they?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have several different websites that deal specifically with our work on the No Surprises Act.
Fantastic. We wanted to, again, congratulate you.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Going forward, and wish you well for this coming year.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening to Top Med Talk. It's a pleasure always to sit down with the presidents of the ASA. So thank you again to the ASA for all the support and generosity that you've shown Top Med Talk over the years. And thank you again for listening to Top Med Talk. TopMedTalk.com. You can find this conversation as well as all of our other podcasts from Anesthesiology 2022. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Bye.